What up, all you super admins out there? Welcome to becoming the HubSpot Super Admin. I'm Matt Bullion from Supered, and if you're a HubSpot Super Admin, I'm glad you're here so you can learn from some of the best in the entire globe. And that's who we have one of those today. Today I'm speaking with Matthias, Werner, and I said that wrong. But he's the head of finance and analytics at Data Virtuality, and we're going to talk about his journey to becoming a HubSpot Super Admin today. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Matt. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
As I say at Chick-fil-A in America, in the U.S., my pleasure. As we get started, the question we love to start with, you are a HubSpot superhero. If you could have any superpower in real life, you have HubSpot superpowers already. What would they be? What would be the power you'd choose?
Wow, that's a tough question. I would like to be better like in memorizing things. So I need to literally write down everything, otherwise I will forget it. And so this could be a good addition to my mental stack.
I like it. So you would be a perfect memory, can remember everything, and never have to write anything down as a superhero. I like that. Number two, what is your favorite, be careful, what is your favorite HubSpot tool? Like what's the weapon of choice inside HubSpot that you love the most and why?
I think it's active lists actually, because it's so super powerful to filter everything and you can use it at many places. So I really love doing things with active lists. But recently I came across a feature which is probably not that obvious, but I really love that you can embed like external content in dashboards. That's super powerful. If you like, for example, I'm doing lots of things in Miro, visualizing processes as well, and it allows you to have the Miro board directly inside of HubSpot. So that's pretty amazing.
I love everything you said. Number one is active list, active list. If no one's ever heard it before, it's actually my favorite tool of all time too, to share it. It's the building blocks of HubSpot that allows you to control all things. Every workflow you ever have should be triggered by a list, as an example. And it is the most powerful thing. And then you actually just promoted Super, which is awesome. So thank you. I think there's a way to make HubSpot even more supered. So thank you for sharing that, Matthias. So next segment, as we move to this next portion, I'm going to tell your story. So what's really cool about the HubSpot, especially as we're burgeoning and it's starting to take over the whole world. I mean, where are you located again?
I'm basically located in Germany, but I spent like half a year abroad and work from something else because we're a remote company and I'm exploiting the flexibility a bit.
I like it.
Right now I'm calling in from the Netherlands actually.
So you're a globetrotter and HubSpotter. That's awesome. Before HubSpot, before you even enlightened, right? Before you HubSpot, what were you doing and how were you solving these problems you're running into?
Well, my whole like CRM journey started with taking over a small fraction of responsibilities in a old Salesforce environment. But over time, as you know, you get more and more responsibilities, and you do this extra piece and this other extra piece. And somehow I ended up being our Salesforce administrator. As many things in life, this wasn't planned, but at some point I was suddenly the administrator, and it worked pretty well, and it was kind of fun. I liked it. And at some point, we were starting to become a bit disappointed and frustrated with the whole Salesforce experience because, I mean, it was not running as smooth as we wanted it. And in addition to that, we were running on on Pardot for marketing automation. And my marketing colleague was like super frustrated about this experience. I think I remember when he said, "Oh, I think this tool stopped developing in 2014." And I think that was at some point. At some point, we were about to change the situation. So
I'm gonna recap what I just heard because there's so many gold nuggets in here, especially when you think I get asked all the time, Matthias, like it's in LinkedIn, where people say, "Hey Matt, how do I?" And I did a whole series. How do you become a HubSpot admin. And part of this is like there's so many different ways to run into it, and a lot of people on accident, without knowing it, they're like, "Hey, you're good at processes." Someone leaves, and you're thrown into the deep end, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I need a property, I need a dashboard, I need this, and we have this Excel file over here. Can you have this thing?" And so it says like that's what you ran into, and
Exactly.
you're less of a CRM admin and more of a the company has a problem, and I have been thrown out to solve it, and I have to here's the tools I was given. Which is cool. It's cool to hear that. You started off in the most difficult CRM, Salesforce. This is just and Pardot, which you're right, was sold in 2013, and now it's called Marketing Cloud, and like people don't use it. So it's a cool story. Like you started off. What was as you were learning all of this, thrown into the deep end? What was the most difficult part of becoming and learning? Because it's to be an admin, right? But it's really like the strategic thinking and then bringing it down. Like, what was the most difficult part of you becoming the tactician? I call it the strategic tactician, and going into that role. What were like what were the three biggest challenges?
I mean, one thing you need to learn along the journey is that you're not only there to fix things that doesn't work, but you also want to advance the system, make it better. And to do so, you need to collect all the requirements from all the teams working with it. And in this case, it's sales and it's marketing, it's customer success, and it's also myself in the role of business intelligence and analytics. So it's always the foundational data you're consuming in your analytics, and to bring in all the requirements and align everything, I think.
To repeat that, because the way I've heard it is gathering requirements, but it's really, especially with analytics, it is what questions do you have to answer? Who needs that question answered, and how frequently do they need those questions answered? Those become your requirements. And then do you have the data structure to support that? And that whole task, just like one thing, is a gargantuan challenge to understand how to put that together. So sorry. And so and you're going to number two.
Number two is like I would say understanding the differences between technical implementation and process perspective on it. So you need to first understand, especially if you are taking over an existing system, you first need to understand how the actual processes are working in reality. And on a separate track, you need to understand how the mechanics in the CRM system are working. And then you need to connect the things, those two tracks or layers, and you need to map them. And especially if you're taking over an existing system, can be very tough as well.
I love what you just said. It is sometimes anytime I'm in a new CRM, or it's the idea is you go to a team and you just say, are you using the CRM? How are you running your team? And they're often going to show you an Excel. If you lead through the entire process. So part of it is you have to an Excel is the fastest way to kill a CRM. And so you have to you have to then build their their Excel processes into the CRM so that it's the same, gives the same outputs that they want. So I love that, what you're talking about. It's almost like the maturation of step one, get requirements. Step two, identify the actual what's happening today, which is really just eat CRMs sometimes. Eat Excels. And then do you have another three?
I wouldn't call it maybe challenge, but I think it's a good learning that your CRM system is actually a product in itself. So you should have a roadmap for it, and it's continuously developing, and you should really treat it as a product itself. So with some documentation aside, as if you would create a software product and sell it to somebody, and you can treat the CRM and the whole automation systems around it as a whole product. It needs to be frictionless to avoid exactly what you just mentioned, that people are using Excel sheets or Google spreadsheets instead of the CRM because it's just easier and faster for them. But this is something where when you discover that users are not using the CRM the way you want them to use it, or you intended the usage, that's not the fault of the users, but it's
Yes.
just reveals some shortcomings of your process design.
This is a high horse I love sitting on, and I will probably never get off. Adoption is the only thing that matters. And it's not the user's fault. They are your customers. And if they don't like
Exactly.
it, then we did a bad job. Now, there is some like top down and how do you get people in it, but at the end of the day, they're your customers. And if they can't answer their question immediately, you've lost. You have to be like, and so this is part of this. How do you answer questions quickly? That's why you probably have the Miro board is so important to you. Like you can put Miro boards directly in so they understand. I love it. So I'm going to recap our three. Learn how to capture requirements. So understand the questions that people need to answer and the frequency they need to answer them so that you have a process that's able to answer those things. And that will be very valuable. Then number two is like, how is the system actually being used today? And then I added this portion and just like map the Excel, like essentially map the Excels. And if there's an Excel outside the system, start eating them. And number three is your CRM is a product, and sales. It almost starts with sales, but there's also CS and marketing are the end users. And if they don't like it, their voice is more important than our own, and it like hurts. So yes, I love that. And I would add one more point. It's a product, so thus any process you add requires maintenance forever, and it must be updated and release features, and it gets just as a point, and you need an owner forever. Okay, that is awesome. I thought there's some great challenges. I feel like people can go away and they could sit on those three things, and you'd be an amazing HubSpot admin, or just CRM, tactical, strategic tactician. Okay, I'm new to HubSpot. I'm new to the CRM world. What are the first three things you would say, hey, look, that you would tell an up and coming, I like to call them superheroes or soups? What are the top three things you would tell them? Go do these three things. How do you become a HubSpot super admin?
Definitely start like step by step. Start with the processes and then think about how to technically implement it. Visualize everything and get feedback from your end users frequently. Get them into the process as early as possible. And even though it's often not the fun part, but start documenting things at the very beginning, because otherwise you will produce like some kind of technical debt over time, and you need to pay off this debt later on, and it will just become bigger and bigger. So number one, to summarize, like number one, get in touch with your end users, get them into the process of designing the system, document the stuff, the data model, the relations, and third thing, have fun. Get in touch with peers. There are great communities out there, and exchange thoughts. There are great resources to consume, and just enjoy the ride, I would say.
I love it. Never create a process in isolation. Document everything, specifically draw it out. Miro, Lucidchart, two of the best tools out there to execute on that on. Number three, you're not alone. It can be such a lonely, feels isolated, but there's thousands, millions of people out there doing the same thing. And there's communities like Sprocketeer, the HubSpot specific one. There's a HubSpot community, Wizard of Ops, Rev Genius, MSP, Pavilion, RevOps Co-op. There's all of these. I particularly like Sprocketeer, but there's all of these where you can plug in and start getting questions answered. This was awesome. I'm gonna say thank you so much for being a guest on becoming the HubSpot Super Admin. I appreciate your time. And I think it's really cool to hear your path, as we all have different paths to becoming the super admin, and how it's like to walk in your shoes. Question, Matthias, if anybody is like, man, I really want to talk to him, where would people find you? What's the best way to contact you?
I think the very best way is to get in touch on LinkedIn. I'm more or less active on LinkedIn, and yeah, I really appreciate new connections. So just reach out, and I always enjoy a chat about some geeky HubSpot problems to solve.
Love it. Well, thank you, Matthias. I really appreciate your time. Stay awesome. Stay strong. And as I like to say, stay supered. Adios, everybody.